There was a beautiful lake in the middle of the forest where people would go to relax and indulge in the hobby of fishing. One day, a small family consisting of a couple and their 4-year-old daughter named Lena visited the lake. Lena was incredibly beautiful, with shining blonde hair and large blue eyes. While the parents were busy with their phones, Lena played nearby. She began chasing the butterflies that filled the area, gradually venturing further into the forest without realizing she was drifting away from her parents. When they noticed she was missing, panic set in. The mother screamed hysterically, feeling guilty for not watching her daughter, while the father ran around aimlessly, blaming himself and feeling helpless. They soon realized that regret wouldn't bring their daughter back. Meanwhile, Lena had reached a small river and was playing near it, unaware of the dangers surrounding her. Her parents, in their despair, called the police. When the officers arrived, they asked when they had last seen Lena. The mother hesitated before admitting that she had been distracted by her phone. The police started searching, and diving teams were sent to the lake, fearing she might have drowned. After hours of diving, they found no trace of her, giving the parents a faint hope that she might still be alive. In the forest, when Lena tried to find her way back, she got lost. She began crying and calling for her parents, but her voice didn't reach them. At that moment, a small white dog named Leo heard her cry. He was puzzled, as he had never heard a sound like that before. His mother, a beautiful white dog, was unaware of him as he ran towards the sound and found the little girl crying. He hesitated to approach her, as humans were the source of his pain. He had never forgotten the day the hunters took his mother, and since then he had hated humans. However, his hesitation faded when he heard the wolves' howls. He knew danger was near and that he couldn't leave the child alone. His mother had always warned him about roaming at night, as it was when predators hunted. As Leo watched Lena from a distance, 3 huge wolves appeared and started moving towards her. At first, Lena didn't recognize the danger and innocently approached them, but when she saw their hungry eyes, she felt fear and backed away, screaming. Just as one of the wolves lunged at her, Leo darted forward like lightning, standing in front of her and barking fiercely. The wolves exchanged glances, then backed off, not out of fear but respect, as Leo had once saved them from a volcano that almost wiped them out. After a few moments of hesitation, they decided to leave, leaving Leo stunned. When Lena saw Leo's bravery, she admired him and wanted to carry him. Initially, he was afraid of her and pulled back, but after she kept trying, he stopped, knowing she posed no threat. She managed to pick him up and began kissing him, and Leo relaxed, enjoying her affection. Once she calmed down, Leo knew it was time to return, as he was certain his mother would be worried about him. Indeed, she was anxiously searching for him and went to his little rabbit friend to ask about him. The rabbit told her they had been playing and had separated. Leo's mother replied that he had already returned home but left her when she wasn't looking. They both went out in search of Leo, just as Leo had predicted, but when they were about to leave, Leo thought that if he left the little girl, she would be preyed upon. So he turned back. Lena sat down under the trunk of a tree, holding Leo with her soft hands, and Leo rested on her lap, licking her palms until she closed her eyes. By that time, night had fully covered the forest, and the moon lit up the scene. Leo stayed awake throughout the night, never closing his eyes. At dawn, exhaustion overcame him, and he fell asleep in her arms. Meanwhile, the police had reached the remote part of the forest. After a long search, one of them heard quiet breathing. They approached and found Lena asleep, holding Leo. The officer radioed in, "We found her." It was an indescribable moment for the parents. The mother collapsed in tears of joy, and the father ran to the officer, asking, "Is she okay?" The officer replied, "Yes, and she's holding a small dog." When Leo woke up, he found himself in the arms of a large man. He tried to escape, but he was too weak against the firm grip. He began to bite the officer's hand, but to no avail. It was then that he realized he had made a terrible mistake, and his mother's warnings had not been in vain. When they reached the lake, the mother embraced her daughter, crying, while the father carried Lena in his arms, kissing her and promising never to be distracted again. But Lena was looking for something. She wiggled in her father's arms until she escaped, running toward the officer and extending her hands, asking for Leo. The mother understood what her daughter wanted and took the dog from the officer, holding him cautiously, fearing he might bite. Leo felt scared. He didn't want to go with them. He knew he would never see his mother again, nor return to the forest he had grown up in. He scratched the car seats with his small claws, trying to escape, but to no avail. He was placed in the car next to Lena, watching the forest through the window, realizing he would never return. As the car moved away, Leo began whining and trying to jump, but the doors were tightly closed. He looked at the trees disappearing from his view, and then at the road ahead. This was not his fate. He didn't belong to the world of humans, but he couldn't resist. The sound of his whining gradually faded, but deep inside he was crying. He had been separated from his mother, from his true home, from the forest that had been his whole life, and so his journey ended, leaving his heart torn between two worlds, belonging to neither. Will Leo be able to adapt to his new life with Lena's family? Or will his longing for the wild push him to find a way back home? What do you think will happen next? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your ideas might shape Leo's journey. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button to be part of his next adventure.